let's get started making this skirt, which is a self-lined ruffle skirt. Self-lined means that this same fabric is on the inside as the outside. It just folds over and the raw edges are sewn in up here. So let's make it. I've got 3 pieces of fabric, all cut 28 inches by the width of the fabric, and I need 14 inches from the deck to the floor. So that means I'm going to just fold over this 28-inch piece, which will give me the 14 inches that I need. This will be sewn into the seam at the top where the welt is, and this will be against the floor. So the first thing I'm gonna do is sew all 3 widths together. And I'm gonna try to make this work with 3 widths. That other chair I had 4 widths, but I'm short on fabric. I've only got 1 more piece left for the cushion. So I'm gonna make this a gathered skirt with 3 widths, and I think what I'll do is I'll put the least gather on the back of the chair and gather the most at the front, in the front corners. So we'll see how that works. Now I'm gonna go ahead and sew my 3 widths together in order to make one long strip, and then I'll show you how to gather it. All sewn together. I'll take it to the ironing board and press it. So all my pieces are sewn together. I'm just going to go ahead and press this in half. And I'm going to start with this seam so that I can make sure that I'm square. I'm going to try to show you my trick for gathering fabric fast. This is my skirt piece, and this is the bottom where it's folded and pressed, and I've got the raw edges up here. I'm going to put this on the longest stitch possible, and I'm going to hold on to my top thread. I'm not going to adjust the tension. I'm just going to manually put tension on this top thread and then sew as normal, and holding on to this top thread so there's a lot more tension on it. And you'll see that it's starting to gather up as it comes out of the machine. And the tighter you hold this thread, the tighter the gathers will be. Oh, and I broke it because I was holding it too tight. So what I'm going to do is just put a couple little stitches here so that it doesn't come out. So you see how that's coming out gathered? I'll bring it in. Let's see. Oh, this light's in the way. The secret is that you can't use an upholstery weight thread for this. So it does break once in a while, but that's okay because the method is so much faster than sewing over a thread. So when you break the thread, then just go back over those other stitches that you did just to lock those in so it doesn't unravel from there. Okay, so I've got my skirt sitting here, and I've got the center of it here so that it'll come around to the back and I can match up and sew together the back here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set this on top of the deck of the chair like this, with the raw edge towards the welt and the skirt on top. Okay, and the reason why we do that is because I'm going to pin it down here, and then once we flip this over, then we've got our nice finished gathered seam there. I've got my pins. I'm just lining up the raw edge with the edge of the welt, and I'll give you a little bit of a pro tip here. On the corners, you want to have a pretty tight gather at the corner. So when you get to a corner, make sure that you have enough fullness in your gather at the corner. On the straightaways, it doesn't matter so much, but at the corner you want to get a little bit more gathered, because when you flip this over, if there's not enough there, it'll cup. Once you do it and you don't have enough fabric there, you'll see what I mean. Oh, much better. So I'm gonna just put a couple pins here to hold this up so I can have an easier time getting around here. Let's see. Okay, so I'm not quite making it around, but I can ungather this a little bit in the back because it's pretty tightly gathered here. And I'll start spreading it out a little bit here too. So we've got to get to here. So we got this much. So all right, I'm gonna pull out a little bit more. Okay, so I made it. Now I'll go to the sewing machine, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sew this seam together, and then we'll sew all the way around. I want to just ask a question here. If you are someone who is interested in potentially opening a workroom where you're going to make slip covers or upholstery, just opening a home decor sewing workroom, if you're somebody who's interested in that, would you put in the comments below? I'm kind of taking a poll with my email list to see how many people are looking to potentially do this as a business or even a side hustle, because I'm creating courses and I'd like to know what level people are at and how beginner or advanced I should be making courses. If you're thinking of opening a workroom, or you even have a workroom but you're just starting out, let me know in the comments below and I'll meet you at the sewing machine. Here's the seam. I'm going to go ahead and join this together, and I'm going to pin it. And actually, I'm going to start down here at the bottom so I know that it's going to be even at the floor. Okay, now I'll start here and sew down to the bottom. So now that's sewed together, now I can open this up and start sewing all the way around. And I'll bring it in closer so you can see this better. There's the seam that I just sewed together, and really I should probably trim this off, but I've already got everything on my table. So I've got it flattened out, and I'm going to start sewing on this side of that seam. Oh, and I need to put on my zipper foot. Okay. And the nice thing about the welt again is that you can feel it. Drop your foot just on the other side of the welt, and we're gonna just sew right along the welt all the way around. And I'm just kind of holding the welt in right next to my zipper foot. If you have a welt foot, that would make this even easier. It's getting pretty thick here, so where it gets thick, where you have to go, maybe go over the cording there, you can walk your fabric through manually. Okay. Let's see how it fits. There it is. The length looks just perfect. And you can see the back doesn't have nearly as much gathering as the front or the sides, and there's the seam that you can barely even see because it happens to be in a gather, but it's fine. It's still gathered up enough, and that's always going to be not really seen anyway. Looks good. Gotta cut off some loose strings, but the length is just perfect. So that's it. Now on to the last step in the slipcover series, and that is to make the cushion, which is right here. If you want to see that video, click on that video right here.